Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. And this video is about brainwashing and indoctrination. And so, how would I say this here? I believe there's a lot of different scenarios that I could use to describe how someone could brainwash another individual or people, rather. And it may be a good analogy as to why people begin to believe in certain things. It could be other things going on with that person in their life that causes them to become easily brainwashed and indoctrinated in certain cult groups, in certain beliefs, even in relationships with certain individuals. And I think I wanted to kind of incorporate a couple of scenarios. Well, I'll do it as best I can. But first is brainwashing is to make someone adopt radically different beliefs by using systematic and often forcible pressure. The organization could brainwash young people, indoctrinate, condition, re educate, persuade, influence, propagandize. And then it goes on to say the evidence is compelling. Okay, so it gives a scenario. The evidence is compelling that these cult members were indeed brainwashed. Okay, and then it says to inculate or inculcate, if I'm saying it correctly, but it's propagandized. And then I looked up indoctrination, which kind of goes hand in hand with brainwashing. The process of teaching a person or a group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. So I would never subject my children to religious indoctrination, teaching instruction methods that were approved for indoctrination in divinity. And so, okay, so where am I taking this whole thing? You would ask. What does brainwashing and indoctrination got to do with this video? Well, for one, um, more recently, there was a famous rap star, and I know by now a lot of people know about Craig Mack. Um, I'll put in his name. And so, I'll be honest with you. I used to listen to a lot of, not a lot of his music. The main song I used to like the most was Flavor in Your Ear. And that was probably the song that was most recognized and actually catapulted of that organization, the Bad Boy label. And so I guess I'm going to read this here. Okay, so Craig Mack, he was a New York rapper on Diddy's Bad Boy label, and he died at, they say different ages, but here it says he was dead at 46. And so I've seen 40, 46, 47. So, sometimes they don't get things right. More in like, I believe the 90s. And so Craig Mack, the Long Island rapper who found fame on Sean Diddy Combs, which some people used to call him Puff Daddy, Bad Boy Records in the mid 1990s. He died at age 46, and his producer confirmed this on the Daily News. So Mac, he launched a hip hop acclaim. There's an ad. I'm trying to get rid of it. So it was a hit song called Flavor in Your Ear. It was in 1994, the early 90s, sort of, where Before being overshadowed by fellow artists such as Notorious Big, he died of heart failure at the hospital near Walterboro, South Carolina, home on Monday. So it has here, God bless my friend. He was a good friend of mine, said Alvin Toney, who produced Mac's debut album, Project Funk the World, and his Get Down remix. So Tony saw his dear friend a final last time. And so he visited the former MC at the Overcomer Ministry Church that he attended in Walterboro to film a documentary about Mac and his decision to pass on fame for a life of deep religious conviction. So nobody got to understand his story, Tony said. I wanted the world to know the talent he did have. It was something I wanted people to enjoy, but it was cut short because he was very religious and wanted to go to church. So Tony said that Mac told him during the visit that he had been ill for some time and he knew that he was not going to live very long. And so he was prepared for whatever that comes to go home to the Lord, Tony said, and he was prepared to do just that. And he wasn't scared, so he was ready. He knew he was going to die. So he was survived by his wife, and he had 2 children, both adults, Tony said. And then it goes on to say, as a boy, the Suffolk County native dreamed of making it big like LL Cool J and Run DMC, according to the New York Times profile of Mac. He began penning his own lyrics when he was just at the age of 12 years old. So here's a photo of Craig Mack. And the song I used to like was Flavor in Your Ear. And so he died in South Carolina. He was 46 years of age, and Mac's career shined bright with the help of Diddy. And then known under the pseudonym Puffy or Puff Daddy, the Bad Boy Entertainment founder met the aspiring artist at the Manhattan Club Mecca and promised to sign him if he could freestyle to Mary J. Blige. And Mac did not disappoint, so he did that. And soon Mac's star-studded hit Flavor in Your Ear was born, and the song went on to earn Grammy nominations for the best rap solo, but lost to Queen Latifah's Had It Up to Here. And so the remix to the song featured Diddy and other up-and-coming stars, including Brooklyn-born rapper Christopher Wallace, known as Biggie Smalls, or the Notorious Big that we knew him to be, who was largely responsible for bringing the record label to fame with his 1994 album Ready to Die. And at the time, Diddy declared both Biggie Smalls and Mac the foundation of Bad Boy Entertainment. This is my life here, Diddy said, gesturing to Mac and Biggie Small during the interview with MTV Raps. And so we all need each other to live and breathe, and that's the way we treat each other. And so Mac departed the label in 1995, hoping to strike out on his own and go further, and fame had eluded him, of course. So he released Operation Get Down in 1997 under the Volcano Entertainment label, but it failed to produce the hit single. So Mac appeared in the music video for Diddy in 2002. It was a hit, I Need a Girl, Part 1. And he was missing, but he was missing when Diddy reunited with Bad Boy Crew for the 2015 BET Awards, having disappeared from the limelight to pursue his faith at a troubled South Carolina church. So a bizarre 2012 video of the church's self-proclaimed prophet, Ralph Gordon Stair, shows the world the famed rapper was still around and in his congregation. And so there are videos. This is just somebody else. That's not a person. That's not the guy that was a part of the church, of course, but that's just an ad. So Craig Mack is dead. We have somebody who used to be Craig Mack, the guy Stair, the preacher Stair proclaimed. He didn't join anything, God joined him, said Stair. So who was arrested on sexual assault charges in December of 2017. Stair gave the man who identified himself as Mac the chance to speak for himself. What did you used to do? The broadcast preacher asked. Wickedness, Mac said. And then, what are you going to do now? Stair continued. Righteousness, Mac replied, before bouncing up and down with his hands in the air. And then later, the video shows Mac can be seen picking up the microphone to do his freestyle. A congregant who left Stair's church after the Christian preacher was busted due to the years of mounting rape and molestation accusations, said that Mack attended the house of worship up until his death. The former parishioner, who asked to not be identified, told the news that Mack identified with the church and was associated with it, but did not live in its rural compound believed to be home to dozens of followers. So Diddy paid a tribute to Mack on Tuesday with a statement remembering his former colleague. And so he quoted, Craig Mack, you were the first artist to release the music on Bad Boy and gave us our first hit, he began. You always followed your heart and you had energy and was out of this world. You believed in me and you believed in Bad Boy, and I'll never forget what you did for hip hop, and you inspired me, and I will continue to keep and try to keep inspiring others. We will always love you. Many of the other hip hop stars honored Mac as well, including LL Cool J, who featured on a popular remix of Flavor in Your Ear. Rest in power, Craig, he tweeted. May the Almighty embrace your soul and lift up your family and friends. It is a pleasure to know you and rock with you. You stepped away from the game and did it your way. I always respected that. And so Hot 97 DJ Funk Master Flex, who shared Mac's hits on NYC Station, wrote on Instagram, rest in peace, good brother. And Just a Friend, rapper Biz Markie, who like Mac, got his start in Long Island, also paid homage, RIP, to my main man, Craig Mack, another great one gone, he wrote on Instagram. And so I did see some other videos surface about the relationship that Craig Mack had with Sean Puffy Combs, that it was not as characterized in this heartfelt message that he left for Craig Mack, that there were some turbulent times in his career involving Puffy Combs, that he wasn't always that kind to all of his artists, that he had to, I guess, begin the record label of Bad Boy Records. And so it was also stated that Craig Mack actually was really the founder. He actually was the one that catapulted that record label. If it wasn't for him with that song, Flavor in Your Ear, they wouldn't be what they are today. So really, he is the one that should have gotten full credit for that record label getting the notoriety that it did. And a lot of people were unaware of that. And so I wanted to extend a little more on this right here. What I know about South Carolina, I know a whole lot about South Carolina. I've been there. I was there not very long ago. There are a lot of churches. I mean, you don't have to drive a mile and you'll run into a church. And so there's a lot of churches, and I believe it's part of the Bible Belt, and most of the South has lots of churches. It stems from conservativeness and Baptist Christian faiths to Pentecostal to all kinds of religious beliefs, and some of it can be really, mild, and some churches are on the extreme, and then some are even go so far as to be very cultish. And so you have to be really careful with that type of situation, because I believe that usually people that get involved in the religions like that, there had to be something that was happening in their life that caused them to flee a bad situation, and they feel as though they need to find themselves. And a lot of times, people who maybe they had a lot of money, they had a lot of fame, they had a lot of fortune, or they've seen something terrible or traumatic, something happen, they turn to religion. Or if they are going to die, they turn to religion. Or if they feel like they have no other purposes in life, they'll turn to religion for an outlet. And I'm not going to try to say a lot of negative things about people who, if they choose to turn to religion, that's what they want to do. But I will say this, in my opinion, I'm not a person that chooses religion. And I have seen a lot of things that are very dangerous with choosing religion. And so I don't have a problem with spirituality, and with people having positive beliefs, and wanting to meditate, and wanting to relax, wanting a peace of mind, wanting to have a clean life, maybe changing bad habits or ways or things like that, maybe trying to start off on a good foot. Um, and I don't have a problem with that. If people feel like they need to seek a faith, I don't see really anything extremely wrong until it turns into something where you lose touch of reality and all sense of self, where you don't care for yourself, or where you feel like there's nothing else but this. And so you lose sense of self-worth, and then you begin to distance yourself from people who care about you, because you think that this entity is going to save everything about you. And so I guess everybody has their own purposes and reasons for that. It's hard to say, but from what I read at the bottom, they did mention that the leader of that church in Westboro, South Carolina, did have a lot of accusations for molesting young females. And I did see a video, it surfaced, it is even on YouTube, where the guy states that he's touching young girls' chest, breast. And so I don't know if Craig really paid much attention to all of that, or if he was just in a whole nother place and he just knew he was going to die, and all that he thought was that he was going to go on to a better place. Also, I believe that there was more to the story than just the fact that he was ill. I believe that he's seen some things in Hollywood, and that he experienced some evils with people he had dealings with in New York that had to do with the Bad Boy record label. Now, this is my opinion, and that maybe money was stolen from him. He didn't get a lot of credit for the music he created. And in the beginning, he was doing well. I did hear some confessions from former colleagues of his, people who are friends of his, that had made claims that he wasn't treated as well. Like certain people want to act as though that they're very heartfelt and sorrowful, and that they're wishing him well. But I'm hearing a whole nother story on the other end of folks. And other people are coming out saying the same thing. So it's unfortunate. I believe that had a lot to do with why he left all that he had known, where he originated from, to move to a place like this and get involved with a group such as this, what was called a cult. And many people called it a cult. And there were some other people who had um, witnessed this church and their dealings, and also referred to it as a cult. And I'm not surprised, because when I was in South Carolina, I noticed there were lots of churches, lots of churches. It was almost unreal. It was like all these churches, and for what? And then it's in a place where it has the most what you would think would be the most segregated or the most racist, but they have all these churches. And it's like if you have that indoctrination or that belief of faith, and you believe that this white God is going to save you and your black family and is going to take all your pain away, then it's all good. And I just don't really believe that. I'm sorry for those of you if I'm not trying to offend anyone, if you're a religious individual, but I don't believe in that. I don't believe that some white God is going to save my black self and my black family. I don't believe that, not one bit. I don't even believe that it even exists. So I'm just being real here. I don't want to sit up here and profess that I'm some holy roller or religious individual and perfect. Now, I'm not perfect, and not by the stretch of an imagination. I admit I'm human. I have my flaws, but I don't believe in a lot of this brainwashing and indoctrination. And so this is a sad situation that occurred. And I also heard that he refused to get medical treatment because part of the religion in that cult is to rely on God, this white God, to save you from everything. And so you have to be willing to release and not, go to modern medicine and, your belief in this faith, you just totally believe in that. And so you're pretty much brainwashed and indoctrinated to the point to where you won't seek medical attention for your health issues. And so I just feel really saddened by this whole incident that it happened this way. Now, maybe he felt at peace with himself that he was going to die and that he would go off to another place. In that respect, I respect his wishes on that uh, level. But with what I'm seeing with this thing with uh, this preacher guy and all of his dealings and the things that he's gotten caught up in, I just thought that was really sad that, he ended up in a situation like this. And so if you really do some searching on the videos to find out who the preacher was and what the congregants experienced and the accusations, and there's even footage showing the preacher talking about touching a young girl's breast, and he did it in front of the congregation. So they're so brainwashed and indoctrinated that nobody bothered to say, hey, that's a young girl, don't touch her in that manner. That's just that isn't a godly thing to do. If you're religious, you should know these are children, they're innocent, and you have no business putting your hand in private areas of children's bodies. But he did do so in front of the congregation. I actually saw where they actually had to, what did they do? Blur it out so you don't get offended and you don't see that. But you can see where he was actually confessing that he would continue to do that. And so I believe people begin to lose sight of reality and what really is right and wrong, to the point to where they don't even use common sense anymore. And so it's really sad. I had family members that were living out there, and they were kind of going to a place where people, all they did, they were going to church, and all the people did in the church is argue and fuss and fight with one another. And they were actually worse than people who don't go to church at all. And so that's another thing. People who do this stuff and believe in these religions, just be careful, believe in these cultish groups. And I'll be honest with you, it seems to be Black people who usually are the easiest to brainwash and indoctrinate in these groups. And I'm Black myself, but I know because this is my culture. But I feel like there's a lot of easy brainwashing, and there's a lot of Black people who are easily to be persuaded into that, what we call the sunken place. And I'm going to use that term loosely because it's sad. But now I'm going to get out of this right here. And RIP to Craig Mack. I just didn't want to really do a video about him, but I kind of did. So, because I really liked this rapper guy when he did that song Flavor in Your Ear. I really liked the way his style was of rhyming. I actually like to listen to a lot of the New York style rappers, even though I never lived in New York myself, but their style was a little bit different and I thought it was pretty cool. So he was one that I used to listen to the music a lot, and I thought he was pretty cool. I still do listen to his music. As a matter of fact, I was shocked when I heard this because I actually had on iTunes, I had that song and I had downloaded, I bought the song like maybe 2-3 years ago, and I'd always play it until I never would get tired of listening to that song. And so I would put it, of course, with my song library. But yeah, I guess this is my way of saying RIP to the great and late Craig Mack. And hopefully he is resting in peace. But anyway, I'm going to click off of him and then I'm going to go on to a whole nother topic. And so I thought, since I'm talking about indoctrination and brainwashing, I'm going to move on to a whole nother subject. So that's why I didn't put his name on the title, because he's just one of the examples in terms of indoctrination and I guess brainwashing. But I wanted to talk more about that whole topic. I saw several videos, of course. I saw this term called feminazi. And feminazi is like people who believe in feminism. And a lot of times, I'm going to do something real quick here. Hang on a second. And so there's this term called feminazi, and there are some women in the Black community who hate feminism because these are the reasons I believe that they don't like it, is because it's a couple of reasons. Um, Number one, they're not being honest. Certain women are not being honest. And I believe the number one reason why some women will go against this is because they don't want to be manless, or they don't want to lose their opportunity of getting into relationships with males, because they feel like if they profess or they admit that they agree with some of the values of feminism for Black women in terms of female, how would you say, independence, that if you're too independent, if you're too smart, if you're too brainiac, if you're too unneedy, then you won't get a man. And there's that belief in the Black community that you're going to be manless if, you don't look a certain way, or if you're very smart or you're very educated. If you don't look like, you're available, if you look too smart or you act too smart, you act like you're too intelligent, you're going to be manless. If you act as though that you believe in feminism and women being independent, that means that's a sign that you're saying to males, I don't need a man. And so men will also say this. There's some Black men in the Black community that will make videos about women, and if they are too quote unquote alpha, they have the alpha qualities, or if they're too independent or too brainiac or too, what they call, too difficult to handle, they're not subservient, or they're too what you call against males, that they're feminazis. And the other reason is feminism is coined as a white woman's concept, that they've created that whole thing, that whole belief. Feminism is a white woman's creation of a concept, and white women are the ones that had feminism, not black women, and it's not a black woman or a colored woman's issue, it's a white woman's issue. And so that is so untrue. It's so untrue. The other reason is it also signifies that if a woman is too independent and she acts as though she doesn't need a man, then she must be a lesbian. And so I'm just going to be honest about this here because there's so much homophobia. And I have heard older Black people. I had a video, I actually had to delete it because I didn't want to offend anybody. And I'll be honest with you to say that I have, a lot of open-mindedness and respect for people who have differences of opinions, but within reason, where it isn't violent and it isn't discriminative to the point to where it causes harm, or it's looking to cause harm to others or belittle others to the point to where it just seems really counterproductive and dangerous and threatening. So I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I do know that there are people in the Black community that are against the gay and lesbian community, even though there are a large number of people that won't come out, and they may not even be, they may be bisexual, they may be a swinger, they may be someone who is, maybe they're not, I don't know how you would say it. They are queer. Yeah, they're queer. They may not be like proclaiming to be a lesbian, but they may be open to relationships, whether it's a male or a female. And so there's different types of people. I've said in the past, different kinds of people who would be considered in the gay community. There's a lot of racism in the Black community that has to do with how Black people are discriminated or how they are treated in racial ways with peers who aren't Black. And so there's the talk and debates about surrounding race. So that's a hard pill to swallow. So when you incorporate a Black person not only being discriminated by their skin color, but now we got to add in that the person is gay or the person is a lesbian. So she's Black, she's a lesbian. And then, so it's not only her skin color and her being a woman, but she's also a lesbian. Oh, wow. Oh, how disturbing. Oh, they're feminazis. They don't like men. They like independence. They're talking about how women should be proactive and they should be able to go out and get educated and work and take care of themselves and have their own property and take care of their kids, and then worry about relationships after, if one is available and the time presents itself to have a relationship, then so be it. But I saw the video where some woman was, she had in the title feminazis, and how Black women are trying to shut up, or women are trying to shut up Black males from speaking. Black males are not going to be shut up no matter how many women tell them to shut up. So that's a lie right there. So let's shut that one down, because that's not the truth. It's actually the other way around. Usually Black males do all the talking and they want Black women to shut up. They don't want to listen to Black women talk. And a lot of times Black women are not recognized and they're not able to speak out unless it's something that they agree on and they feel like it's not threatening or it's a non-threatening to them, or if it signifies that they're subservient or that they want to serve them. And so those are lies that somebody is putting out there. And so I just wanted to put that out. In my opinion, I believe it's nothing but lies, because usually it's the Black male that they listen to in the beginning. Because even if you look back into the 60s, who were the most influential leaders that spoke out? Most of them were Black males. There were women who they might have, like Rosa Parks, didn't give up their seat, and she might have said a few things, but you didn't see her making mega speeches like Martin Luther King did or like Malcolm X, and pretty much indoctrinating people into religion or into certain beliefs about civil rights and what have you, to the point to where people began to listen and to follow these people. And I'm going to say some types of cult situations may not be necessarily all bad, but it could go bad depending on how people approach it. Sometimes people look at religion and they say, okay, some people are a little more milder. Like, for example, the Nation of Islam. There's some Islamic groups who are a little more milder, and I believe there are Orthodox and unorthodox Islam. And so I'm not really going to go deep off into that. What I'm going to say is sort of on the surface that there's some groups that are more milder and inclusive of different people. Like if you saw the movie Malcolm X in the beginning, um, he was depicted as a criminal, a hustler, a pimp, and a fast talker, and someone who was incarcerated. And then he took up with the Nation of Islam. And as he began to learn more about the religion, and he actually made the trip to Mecca, he began to see that um, people who are Muslim are not just Black Muslims, they're Muslims from all walks of life, and they can be white men, they can be Arab men, they can be Black men, they can be women of all walks of life. And so when he made that pilgrimage to the place, the holy place, he realized that, if you're going to be a part of that faith, he opened himself up to be inclusive of more people. And so it took time for him to grow to that point. And so with that being said, sometimes, when you're brainwashed or indoctrinated into something, you don't see any other way. You're kind of walking through a tunnel, and you only have that one vision that you're looking at. You're not using your peripheral vision where you can see the world for what it really is. You're just seeing down a tunnel. And so that's kind of what people do on these websites where they put in feminazi, and Black women are trying to shut up Black men's mouths and not let them speak and all this, and they're trying to shut out Black men. No, actually, it's the other way around. I've seen a lot of videos where Black males are trying to actually threaten Black women and discredit Black women and shut Black women up and shut them down and be abusive, to where they're actually threatening that they don't want to sleep, they don't want to have kids, they don't want to be involved with Black females. And so that's what I have seen. So I don't know who this woman is or who these people are who are putting this stuff out there. It's nothing but a bunch of lies. It's actually really sad, because that's one of the reasons why we have such a breakdown in our community and we don't get along, because you have these individuals, these jokers out here who put this stuff out saying this, and they're not really telling the truth, that there are some women who will disregard their children, disregard their own needs, and put everything aside just to please some guy who he's not even caring about her needs and her kids and her life. All he cares about is maybe one thing, and it's usually sex, or to use the woman, or to take advantage of her, or to brainwash her into believing that he really does care when he really doesn't care. She's just someone to lay up with and to use up until he can't use her no more. And so there's certain women who will allow this type of thing to go on just to say that they're in a relationship and the relationship's not healthy. And so that's what I've seen. That's what I've known. There are some weak minded females who will accept anything, even if that person is no good, just to say, I got a man. So he could be a player, he could have a disease, he could lie to her, cheat, do all kinds of stuff, and she'll know he's like this, but she just wants to have somebody there, you know. And then when it gets volatile, or when that person decides to just up and leave and go with someone else, you know, she doesn't know what to do. It's like codependency. And so there are some females that will accept anything. I've seen it, and it's pitiful, because I don't know where their training is, but I don't know. I do know there was one lady who, she's famous, and she said that all she knew was to accept any kind of treatment, because she thought that's what you were supposed to do if you wanted to keep a man, is to let him beat you. And so some women think this is okay. And I'll be honest, I'm not just saying it's just in Black community only, but there are some females that think it's okay for men to slap you up. That means he loves you. If he beats the crap out of you, draws blood, oh, he really loves me. He loves me. He's beating me. Um, you know, I've seen women where they put the kids um, last. He doesn't care about the kids. He doesn't want to be bothered with the kids. He wants you to cater to him. And so there's certain really unsavory, unhealthy relationships that are like that. And some of that is not all his fault per se. It's her allowing it to happen. I'm not going to say he's perfect and it's just all her fault, because he has a big fault in it, but she's allowing this behavior to happen. And so for her to let him beat her and let him lie and to allow all of this type of treatment, the next woman he goes to, he's going to be the same way and feel like, if I can do this to this woman and to the other woman, I can do it to you. So I believe they use tactics of brainwashing and indoctrinating to get women that are weak-minded to accept that type of abuse in relationships. And if she's a weak-minded female, she'll allow this. She'll put her kids last, she'll put her own needs last, and put the man before even her livelihood. She'll even go homeless. And so there are couples like that where the woman gets evicted because the man, he takes the money and does whatever he wants, spends it on other women, comes home, sleeps with her, give her a disease, and then he lies, says, oh, I didn't give it to you. You must have slept with somebody. And if she talks about it too much, she gets beat. So I've seen this. I'm not stupid. I'm not crazy. I've seen this. And so people want to sit there and make these videos about how Black women are trying to shut men up. Those are lies. They're not true. And so I'm not about to sit here and look at videos that tell me that Black women are trying to shut Black men up, because Black men always talk. It's a matter of fact, it's the other way around. When are Black women going to speak out? There's a lot of open forums. They always call somebody to express their opinions, and it's usually Black men always speaking out. And who's at the forefront when Black men get shot by the police? Black women. So whoever's putting this stuff out there, they're crazy to be doing that. They must have some deep issues emotionally within themselves. They're not actually helping the Black community. They're hurting the Black community. If you want to bring Black people together, don't divide us by putting out this stuff that Black women are trying to shut Black men up. That is not true. What we need is healthier relationships. We need people to talk about infidelity and how to stay together and how to be real fathers and real mothers and have a real family and be real individuals and be honest about the things that they know that they need help with. Not trying to make more war against women and men so they can fight about who's talking and who's not talking. And so that's my feelings on it in that subject area. I just wanted to say that because I seen some video surface that certain women are trying to shut men up. Now, I feel like this: if you were smart enough to pay your own bills and feed your kids and do whatever you got to do, as long as you've been doing it, and all you want is companionship, you don't need somebody slapping you around and telling you how to lead your life, because you won't go anywhere with that. You can get in a relationship and somebody can take you all the way down. If you were up and you had dreams and hopes, and then you meet somebody and then they've got nothing but uh evil force in them that just wants to indoctrinate and brainwash a woman and take her all the way down, it'll happen. And that's one way to do it, is meet a weak-minded female who will allow somebody to be abusive and take her all the way down and talk her out of common sense. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this video with that, because I really don't like when I hear people say things like that, because it isn't true. And so it's just sad that, you know, people in our community are easily to be persuaded to do crazy things. You know, we always talk about how white people were in cults and some of the crazy things that they've done. But Black people have done things too, where they believe in religions and they don't even really know what they're believing in. They don't know what they're following, and they'll pay money every month to people simply because they say, "Oh, we hate white people, and we don't like white people, and we don't like what they did to us," and all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm disappointed about some things, some political issues, but I have common sense. And I'm not going to let somebody Black do the same horrible things to me just because he happens or she happens to be Black. And I feel like I should have some kind of trust in this person because they're skin folk. I'm not doing that. And so that's where my position is on that whole issue. But with that being said, um, you know, I'm going to go to something right here real quick, because it popped into my mind. Okay. Okay, so, all right. I know you're seeing this here. Ignore the images of the dolls. So this is Marshall Applewhite. I'm going to read to you who he is if you want to know about cults. And so brainwashing. Yeah, he's not Black, but let me read. Okay, so Marshall Herf Applewhite Jr. is also known as Bo and Do. Among other names, was an American cult leader who founded what became known as the Heaven's Gate religious group and organized their, let me go and click into it. Okay. He organized their mass suicide in 1997, claiming the lives of 39 people. He was a native of Texas. Applewhite attended several universities, and as a young man, he served in the U.S. Army. And so after finishing school at Austin College, he taught music at a University of Alabama, and he later returned to Texas, and then he led choruses and served as a chair of a music department at the University of St. Thomas in Houston. So he left the school in 1970, citing emotional turmoil. His father's death a year later brought a severe depression, and then in 1972 he developed a close friendship with Bonnie Nettles, a nurse. Together they discussed mysticism so at length, and concluded that they were called as divine messengers. So they operated a bookstore and teaching center for a short while, and then began to travel around the US, and in 1973 to spread their views, basically brainwash and indoctrinate other people. So they only gained one convert. And so in 1975, Applewhite was arrested for failing to return a rental car and was jailed for 6 months. And in jail, he further developed his theology. And so after Applewhite's release, he traveled to California, Oregon with Nettles and eventually gaining a group of committed followers. So Applewhite and Nettles told the followers that they would be visited by the extraterrestrial people, the space people, rather. So, who would provide them with new bodies? So, Applewhite initially stated that he and his followers would physically ascend to a spaceship where their bodies would be transformed, but later he came to believe that their bodies were the mere containers of their souls, and which would later be placed into new bodies. And these ideas were expressed with language drawn from Christian. Okay, let me go up a little more. Eschatology. And so the New Age movement is what they called it, and American popular culture. So the group received an influx of funds, and in the late 1970s, which it was used to paying for houses and other expenses. So they pretty much took care of each other. So in 1985, Nettles died, leaving Applewhite distraught and challenging his views on physical ascension. In the early 1990s, the group took more steps to publicize their theology. And so in 1996, they learned of an approach called the Comet Halley Bob and the rumors of an accompanying spaceship. They concluded that the spaceship was a vessel that would take their spirits on board to a journey to another place or a planet, believing that their souls would ascend to the spaceship and be given new bodies. The group members committed a mass suicide in their mansion. A media circus followed thereafter, and the discovery of their bodies. In the aftermath, commentators, academics discussed how Applewhite persuaded people to follow his commands, including suicide. So some commenters or commentators attributed to his followers' willingness to commit the suicide to his skill as a master manipulator, while others argued that their willingness was due to their faith in narrative that he had constructed. Okay, so it goes on to talk about the early life education career and whatnot. So I remember seeing the actual video showing all of the bodies that they were taking out of the house. And so it was really crazy. And I know it was a horrible sight when I saw it. And so if you look on YouTube, some of the videos of Applewhite, you see how his eyes are like looking at you like he's looking wide-eyed and like, you know, in a trance. And so his videos are like that. And he doesn't blink, which is strange. I didn't see him blink in the videos. So I thought it was pretty weird. But he pretty much brainwashed and indoctrinated the followers enough so that they took like what was pudding or some kind of concoction they made, and they all ate it and they died. And each one cleaned up behind the other so that the other one would die. And they all wore black, so that's what I remember. But anyway, so that kind of gives you a clue. And so it's similar to what the church, that a little bit similar to the church Craig Mack was attending a church. They didn't commit a mass suicide, but I did hear that the guy where this church that he was going to, they did believe in where you don't really go to a doctor to, you know, get medicine and for your illnesses and what have you. So I'm assuming from what I saw that maybe if he had some medicine, he would have still been around a little bit longer. So I don't know the whole details and all of that. It's just sad. But yes, there's a lot of brainwashing on all levels. It can be in religion and then it can be in relationships. So that's my point. So I'm going to end this video right here. And thank you. Like, comment, and subscribe. And no, if you see any other people. And just because he's white doesn't mean he's the only one that does this. I've seen on YouTube Black people who have groups, and they form these groups and ask for money and say they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and they're going to uplift the Black community, and they're going to bring them out of their poverty, and they're going to help Black boys and Black girls. And meanwhile, they're collecting all your money, and they've got you brainwashed into believing they're hype and indoctrinated because they say things that you want to hear, and you're already upset and angry, which is validated because of all the craziness that's going on. And there is racism that happens to Black people in our community. You know, there's over policing and there's police brutality, and that is happening. There are situations that are going on. And so people will take those situations and put it and incorporate it in their religion to help brainwash you further and indoctrinate you in some of these dangerous beliefs. And they have no intention of uplifting the Black community. They have no intention of making Black girls and boys thrive and do better in life. Their intention is to take everybody's money, steal, lie, and maybe pedophilia, you know, when they start talking about your children, just like what happened with this other guy's stare at that wardrobe, whatever, in South Carolina church. So that's why I stay away from, this is just small examples as to why I don't get caught up in people's hype when they start talking all that mess about, yeah, you need to believe me in this and believe me in that. I'm not going to do it. So with that being said, I'm going to cut this video to a close, but thank you, like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for listening.